struck off the register of companies. So the two companies here must lose their identities to give room for a completely new company called C to be born. And then we have an acquisition. For acquisition, if A acquires B, no, first of all, let me go back here. So you've said for mergers, ladies and gentlemen, if A and B merge, if they come together, automatically, ladies and gentlemen, in form of a merger, then these two companies here will lose their identities. So that at the end of the day, we shall have a new company being born. So if we're asked to define what a merger is, never forget that a merger basically is the coming of two or more companies together. So whenever we have two or more companies coming together to form one new company, that becomes a merger. And then don't forget that the old companies must lose their what here? Their identities, must lose their identities. And then when we have A acquiring, for instance, B, if A acquires B, the company that has been acquired will have to lose its identity. And then at the end of the day, the acquirer firm, the acquiring firm will, of course, in this case here remain, albeit in a bigger way, because it has swallowed a company. It has taken over assets of another company. Could you kindly give me examples, ladies and gentlemen, of companies that you know have ever come together through mergers in Kenya? Could you kindly give me good examples of companies that you know have ever come together to form a completely new company in Kenya here through mergers? So please give me the names of the two companies, the names of the two old companies that came together to give us a new company. Is there somebody who can remind us? So like now we have a Kenol Kobil. Kenol Kobil. We have a NIC Bank. NIC Bank, in this case here, combined efforts with which bank? CBA. To form which bank here? Somebody to form a brand new bank called who? NCBA. And if you are a student who follows finance news, you must have seen the struggle that NIC, that CBA went through in terms of informing creditors. They used to buy full newspapers, full-page newspapers, saying, hey, our creditors, we are going to, in this case here, put down our tools. We are winding up this company. Why are we winding it up? It's because we want to combine efforts with CBA, right? To form a new company called what here? NCBA, so that we can, for example, in this case here, muzzle up some good financials here to be able to fight competition, right? How about this one here? Is there somebody who is quite aware of any company in Kenya here that keeps on acquiring other companies? Is there somebody who knows of a company that, in this case here, is in the process of always acquiring other companies, smaller companies, and then at the end of the day, it keeps on becoming bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, right? Like KCB has acquired National Bank. Brookside has been acquiring so many other smaller firms. And in my last class, if I can remember very well, I gave you a very good example that nobody in this case here was able to get correctly. Assuming that these two are great companies that want to come together. When they come together, these two, will this coming together of these two companies be classified as an acquisition or as a merger? Cat and rat, animal companies. Will it be an acquisition or a merger? I can see some students saying that this Mwalimu will be a very good example of a merger. I can see other students saying, Mwalimu, you know what? This is a very good example of an acquisition. The students who are telling us that this for sure is an acquisition, could you kindly, in this case here, tell us, why are you saying that this is an acquisition? Why are you telling us that this is an acquisition? It's because of what Mr. Guga has told us. there is one of these animals that will be absorbed permanently. One of these animals, ladies and gentlemen, here will be eaten up. So that at the end of the day, it is, as somebody is telling me there, it is the cat that will be able to prevail. It is the cat that will be able to prevail, albeit in a bigger form, well fed up cat. So this becomes what here, somebody, an acquisition. The cat has acquired the rat. The cat has acquired the rat. Now, as a quick reminder, I should be able to use my first 20 minutes here to basically do a recap. We discussed very, very important things in our last class, ladies and gentlemen, apart from this. For instance, if I can recall, if my memory is still as good as a 5-year-old's memory, I taught you something to do with what we called maximum exchange ratio. I taught you various formulas that I would want all the new students here to really go and watch that video of the last class talking about this. So is there somebody who can, as a quick way of recapping, is there somebody who can give me the formula of calculating the maximum exchange ratio? Is there somebody who can give me this formula? Maximum exchange ratio. Somebody have to talk to me. A recap really means that the two of us must connect. If you're not able to connect, then automatically we have a problem. And please, when you are doing a recap, you don't look at your notes. No. Just try to box your memories a little bit. Try to really put in some energies to remember, even if you don't get it, so what? So long as you're trying. They are telling me, Mwalimu, this is quite an easy one. This is quite an easy one. They're telling me, Mwalimu, this one, you shall take the earnings per share of the target company, all over EPS of a company that we call the predator, the one that will swallow the other one. Thank you so much. You guys are bright. Then there is something else that I also taught you that I would want to see whether you're able to remember in the next 5 minutes. In the next 5 minutes, I taught you something to do with a premium being received by shareholders of the target company. Is there somebody who can remember the formula of getting premium without looking at your notes? Please be very faithful in whatever that we are doing. We must learn how to be faithful. I'm training accountants, and the first virtue of an accountant is honesty. Don't look at your notes. Try to trouble yourself in this case to remember. Premium equals who? MPS of the predator minus something. I really love that. This must be a good student, although mekosea kiasi. First of all, it can't be MPS of the predator, but at least you have something. That is the kind of student I want. Offer price minus MPS of the target. Glad is quite a good trial, but don't you think? Let's see. The last student, somebody who is able to remember this. In the interest of time, ladies and gentlemen, remember this premium comes as a result of who? We have here the shareholders of the target company. The shareholders of the target company, for them to think of an acquisition, it means that straight away they have financial problems. And for them to get out of these financial problems, they must think of selling the company. And for them to sell the company, ladies and gentlemen, there are two ways. Either they sell their shares to the predator through an acquisition, so they are acquired, or in this case here, they go to the stock exchange and they sell their shares. They go to the stock exchange, which is an exchange of selling shares. Basically, this is a market of shares. So they go to the market and they'll be able to get the MPS. Now, in most cases, of course, for the predator to be able to convince these people here to sell their shares to them, they must offer a higher price. So you're saying that the acquirer must always offer a higher price. So for us to be able to get this premium, listen, for us to be able to get this premium, we shall be taking the offer price, the price which has been offered. It could be the non-diluting offer price, then though, or whichever, or the normal one. So we'll take the offer price. What has been offered must be higher minus the normal price they would have fetched in the market. Minus the normal price they would have fetched in the market. Minus the normal price they would have fetched in the market. This is the MPS of the targeted company. The MPS of the targeted company. The MPS of the targeted who? Company. MPS of the targeted company. MPS of the targeted company. MPS of the targeted company. These are things we shall be able to remember. We shall be able to remember, especially when we have a look at the videos that are done in the last class, which of course, someone told me that they are not very well organized. I'll look at them after this. I'll look at them after this. Now listen, lastly, there is something very important here that I taught you in my last class called the post-acquisition EPS. Is there anybody who can remind us the formula of post-acquisition EPS? Is there anybody who is able to remind us the formula of post-acquisition EPS? The series who have just joined us, we are doing what we call mergers and acquisitions. And I'm basically doing a recap. So when we talk of post-acquisition EPS, post-acquisition, I've acquired this great lady to be my wife. We have combined forces here to create a family, a new family. So it means that our earnings must be tied together. So you take the earnings of the husband plus earnings of who? The wife. Post-acquisition EPS, post-marriage. We expect the two earnings to be put together. And if these two people here, this couple is a serious couple, they should even be able to put their earnings in the same joint account. With who? Having the full rights of accessing that joint account? The husband. The husband. Remember, we are the heads of the families. Heads of the families. Both. So we have here earnings of company one plus earnings of company two divided by the noses. Nose of company one plus nose of company what here? Nose, ladies and gentlemen, nose stands for number of ordinary shares. Because ordinarily, to get EPS, we normally take total earnings. Total earnings divided by what here? Somebody? Number of ordinary shares. Number of ordinary shares. So we'll take the total earnings of company one plus earnings of company two divided by the total number of shares. Remember, this number of shares here will not be existent. We must come, ladies and gentlemen, and multiply this with what here? Exchange what here? Exchange ratio. Exchange ratio. So this was quite a good recap. And this is quite common in your exams. I expect you guys to go and revisit this. And most importantly, please use the question that we did in our last class as quite a good illustration for you to practice. Otherwise, please mention there today's subtopic under mergers and acquisitions, quite a huge, interesting subtopic called valuation of firms. Valuation of firms in M&A. Valuation of firms in mergers and acquisitions. So there is no way we shall be able to get into a merger, to get into an acquisition arrangement without knowing the values of the firms. We must know this firm that we would want, ladies and gentlemen, to acquire, what is its worth. There are several methods. One of the methods which is quite common is what we call the discounted cash flow technique. The discounted cash flow technique. The discounted cash flow technique. Where basically we shall be looking at this firm that would want to acquire, that you want to acquire today, RCM Online College. For you to acquire RCM Online College, you can't come to acquire RCM Online College from us blindly. You are a finance scholar. What you'll want to know, first of all, how have our cash flows been, perhaps for the last 7 years since we began. So year number 1, our cash flow was 10. Year number 2, our cash flow was 15. Year number 3, our cash flow, for example, was 20. So these, of course, those figures are in millions. You're not a small company, right? So ladies and gentlemen, the moment you are given these cash flows like that, so you're given, for example, we have year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4. So somebody comes and gives you cash flows over RCM. Cash flows over RCM. So they'll tell you cash flows over RCM. For example, year 1, our cash flow was 10. Year 2, for example, was 15. Year 3, for example, was 18. Year 4, for example, was 19. Now, remember what I taught you when we began this subject called finance. I told you that generally we have got how many types of cash flows? Two types of cash flows. So we have those cash flows that are regular, those cash flows that are uniform, where year number 1, you are given 10 million. Year number 2, 10 million. Year number 3, 10 million. Year number 4, 10 million. I can hear throughout those years, there is some uniformity. It's 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. What is the name that we give to those cash flows in finance, which are uniformly receivable, uniformly, evenly, like that? There is a special name we call them. Robert tells me annuities. David tells me these are annuities. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So this type of cash flows that we have here, ladies and gentlemen, do they fall into that category of annuities? Do they fall into that category of annuities? No. Why? Because I can see they are fluctuating. They are irregular. I like you guys. These figures are irregular. These are irregular. These are irregular. They are irregular. Year 1, I'm getting 10. Year 2, I'm getting a different amount. Year 3, I'm getting a different amount. Year 4, I'm getting a different amount. Now, ladies and gentlemen, listen and listen to me very carefully. If you gave me this as your cash flows over RCM, and I would really want to acquire this organization, it will be foolhardy. I'll be a foolish man to start adding these cash flows directly. Like I said, 10 plus 15 plus 18 plus 19, and then tell you the total. And then I tell you that, like, this is what I'm projecting to receive in the future. You will be a fool. Why? Because in finance, a shilling today is not exactly equal to a shilling tomorrow. In finance, we believe in what we call corrosion of value as time lapses. During my days, ladies and gentlemen, if I can remember very well, my own mother could, in this case here, carry a very big bag, kikapu, very big, under sokoni. And I can remember vividly as if it was yesterday, in the early 80s, even mid 80s there. I can remember this, although I was a bit young, but I can remember this vividly as if it happened yesterday. With this kikapu, that great lady could go to the market with only 1 shilling, hivi shilling moja, and she would do good shopping. That kikapu would come, in this case here, back full, and trust you me, still, alikuwa na baki na mangotora, ile mapeni, ilikuwa mapeni na kara ingine fani hivi, mapeni. A shilling used to be very powerful. A shilling used to be very powerful. But right now, if I try giving my own son, even if my own son, for example, was to be a 3-year-old, it's not a 3-year-old, but I'm giving you an example. I give a son who is 3 years old, I give him 1 shilling. I'm so sure atarusha chini. Ataniambia isitaki. Why? Because now it has become worthless. So for us, there is no way we will ever add these currencies coming to us, cash inflows coming, even if they are outflows, there is no way we'll ever add them directly. We must recognize what we call time value of money. We must discount. So for me to discount, I would ask you to give me the cork. Give me the cork. The cork, in this case, you will tell me, of course, you can tell me, for example, the cork is 10%. If you don't give me the cork, I know how to estimate it. I'll get some financial news metrics from CBK and look at the average T-bill, treasury bill rate. The moment I get that average treasury bill rate, I'll be able to take that as my cost of capital. So I'll tell you, hey, I'll discount your figures using the average T-bill rate, right? So in this case here, I'm assuming that the cost of capital is provided, it is 10%. Now, there is one thing that you guys haven't given me. There is one thing you guys haven't given me. I'm not writing too low. Here, remember now I've finished. I'm not. Are you able to see this? Are you able to see this is cost of capital, 10%? Are you able to see the cost of capital is 10%? Or you're not seeing it totally? Ah, yes. If you're able to see it, then I'm not going to write any down again further. That's the end. That is it. That is it. Thank you very much for that reminder. Now, ladies and gentlemen, there is one thing you haven't told me. If for sure these are irregular cash flows, then you're telling me to discount. So to discount them, it's either I use PVIF or I use PVIFA. Two things. It is either I'll use PVIF or I use PVIFA. PVIF stands for present value interest factor. PVIF stands for present value interest factor. PVIFA stands for present value interest factor of an annuity. There is no way I will use this PVIFA because for sure these are not annuities. So you can see what some students are telling me there straight away in the text they're sending. They're telling me, Mwalimu, use PVIF. Don't use PVIFA because PVIFA is normally used when you have annuity cash flows. These are irregular. And if they're irregular, ladies and gentlemen, you're telling me, use PVIF. Easy said than done. So if it's PVIF, are you able to remember the formula? Are you able to remember the formula of PVIF? Is there somebody who can remember the formula of PVIF? Is there somebody who can remember somebody who is able to remind us these formulas very fast? We need to do what? To start rewarding them. We need to start rewarding them. We need to start rewarding them. Great. I can see what Susan Mwende has just told me. She has told me, Mwalimu, don't joke with us. The formula of PVIF is the easiest formula that we have in this world. The formula of PVIF is 1 plus R raised to negative N. The formula of PVIF is 1 plus R raised to negative N, where R is the rate of return, where R is the cost of capital, N is the year. N is the year. So that if that is the case, I'll come and create a column up here and call it PVIF formula, which is 1 plus R raised to negative N. And then I'll start right away hitting the road hard. And this is how I will hit the road hard. I'll talk of 1 plus, we have R, which is 0.1. Right? Raised to N. N is the number of years. This is the first year. This is the first year. So I raise this one here to negative 1. So ladies and gentlemen, could you kindly give me this one here? Raised to negative 1. What answer are you able to get? And I would want all of us really to use our calculators. Never copy my figure. My figures are always wrong. This semester, I'll always give you wrong figures. I'll only be taking figures from you guys. So somebody is telling me that upon raising this correctly, they're getting 0.9091. They're getting 0.9091. Thank you. Thank you so much. From there, we go to year number 2. Year number 2, I'll talk of 1.1 raised to N. This year is N is 2. I'm so sure hujaona nimetoa 1.1 wapi. Hujaona. I'm so sure there must be somebody hajaona nimetoa 1.1 wapi. Nimetoa 1.1 hapa, 1 plus R. Remember, my R, which is the cost of capital here, will not keep on fluctuating. My R is the same, is 10%. So 1 plus 10% is 1.1. What will keep on changing is the number of year 2. So then somebody tells me that this gives me 0.8264. Thank you so much. Please go to the third year. Please give me these figures. 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 So Jackie tells me the next one is 7513. 7513. The last one, according to Alice Macau. No, Alice Macau has given me the same, which is very good. So 6830. 6830. 6830. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Now then, could you kindly do me a favor? Could you kindly do me a favor? Could you kindly do me a favor? Do we have discounting tables, all of us, on our tables? You know, the examiner in most cases will give you discounting tables. Do we have the discounting tables or any past paper? I told you for financial management, you must print those past papers from that link. You print all of them and then you carry them in a file. Please, for the sake of the students who may not be having that past paper which has got that particular table, could you kindly share those papers on our WhatsApp? Please share those papers on our WhatsApp. If you don't mind, please share very fast. And then you tell me shared. Share very fast. And then you tell me shared. And then remember, ladies and gentlemen, that in online classes, you need to be very aggressive, giving us answers through the chats. Very important. And if you don't have, for example, the paper, never shy away. Say, I don't have the paper. Never allow us in this case here to move to the next step if you don't have these things. It's good for you to ensure that you have all tools of trade. Otherwise, if you keep quiet, Zoom classes are dangerous, because I'll straight away make an assumption that these guys are understanding. And once I sense that guys are understanding, what do? I know that now I'm on a highway. Actually, it should be an expressway. Sorry. So shared. Thank you very much. So shared. I can see students who are asking whether Mwalimu, you'll be dictating notes. There are no notes here able to be dictated here. It's you to get the skill, really. It's you to do. It's you to do this. It's you. No, you don't even going to write discounting. After all, I'm even required in this case here to assume that you guys are so good in this, right? Myself, my role here is to ensure that you have the proper skill, right? Because you can imagine, like now for discounting, if I start writing for you like PV, we'll never finish the syllabus. So mine will be to do this, and then I give you the video after this. So once you have the video now, later on, you can try to get something that is there. And of course, occasionally, I'll also be sharing with you handouts. Great. Now, if we have those tables, there are two types of tables there. The examiner will always give you two types of tables. There is one table called annuity. Please look at those tables, two tables. There is one table called annuity. Is there somebody who is able to see that table called annuity? Is there somebody who is able to see the table called annuity there? They're saying yes. Now, ladies and gentlemen, are we going to make use of that annuity table here this time round? Are you going to make use of that annuity table this time round? No, because we are dealing with irregular cash flows. These are irregular cash flows. So if I'm not using the annuity table, I'll always go for the other table. So please go to the other table and go to where, in this table, go to where the examiner has given you a cost of capital of 10% up there. And then he has given you years here. Right? He has given you years here, 1, 2, 3. Ladies and gentlemen, 10%, underneath 10%, year number one. What are you able to see there, somebody? Underneath 10%. How I wish all these guys have these tables. Underneath 10%, underneath 10%. What figures are you able to see underneath 10%? Year one, 1991. How about now year two? How about year two? 8264. How about year three? 7513. And then we have the last one, which is year four. What are we able to see there, somebody? 6830. 0.6830, like that. I can see Motefia Gitonga raising his hand up. Motefia, unfortunately, I cannot allow you to ask a question verbally. If you don't mind, Motefia, right, just type your question. Because if I try, in this case here, allowing you to unmute yourself, this thing is going to be messy here, right? It's going to be messy here. Please type. Now, all of us, please, if you guys are honest, all of us, have we been able to know how to read this from the tables? All of us, have we been able to know how to read this from the tables? Don't fear, this is your father. Yes, thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much. Now, in an exam situation, which approach do you think will be better? Should we use the formula throughout or the table throughout? Formula or table throughout? Tables, of course. But that can only happen whenever the discounting rate is available. You know, you can see 10, 14, at times they jump. So the AFM examiner will give you a rate which is not on those tables at times. So if he gives us a rate which is not on those tables, what do we do? Then we have to remember the formula. But fortunately, the formula here is really easy. The formula is really easy. The PV formula here, I'm repeating again, the PV formula, present value interest factor formula, is 1 plus R raised to negative who? Raised to negative n. It's very easy. It's very easy. It's very easy. Right. So anytime in this case here you have, ladies and gentlemen, anytime you have a discounting rate, which in this case here is on your formula sheet, on your tables, which is on your tables there, don't try to tell the examiner that you know what, I'm the guru of financial management. Nasema ati uko na hinya. Ataanza kutumia formula. No. If the discounting rate is available in the tables, always read those figures very fast from the table. If the discounting rate is not among the ones given the table, then I have to be forced to use this formula. Great. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's come back here. Now we have what we call the discounting factors. So with these discounting factors, what do? We'll come and create a column here for present value. Present value, which in this case here means what? A discounted cash flows. Discounted cash flows. So discounted cash flows means what? That you are taking the cash flows that you're given here, multiplying them with their present value factors. Like now 10 times 0.909, this will give me 9.09. Discounted cash flows, we would rather capture them in 2 decimal places for simplicity. Discounting cash flows, we shall be capturing them, ladies and gentlemen, in form of what here? How many decimal places? 2 decimal places. From there, we take 15 times this. So 15 times this is just somebody 12.40, 12.40, 12.40, 12.40, 12.40. Thank you so much. How about the third one? The third one is this. The third one from Steve, we are getting 13.52, 13.52, 13.52. And then we have 19 times this, 19 times this, 19 times this, 19 times this, gives us 12.98. Thank you so much. Now, given that we have our discounted cash flows, what do you think would be the next thing to be done? What do you think would be the next thing to be done? Now that we have our discounted cash flows are like terms. Discounted cash flows are like 2 brothers now. You put them together, you add for us to give us the total discounted cash flow. You add, you sum. So this plus this plus this plus this, please give me a figure to write here. It gives me 47.99. Thank you, and thank you very much. 47.99. And this total discounted cash flow automatically becomes who? Becomes the value of the firm. When I look at my future cash flows, that I'm an investor, I would want to invest in this company. So I'll be able to get the historical cash flows. Using this historical cash flow, that I should be able to project now the future cash flows, and then I discount them. When I discount them, get all the cash flows that we have in terms of today's value, in terms of today, then I should be able to add them up to get the total discounted cash flows, and the total discounted cash flow becomes the value of the firm. So there is no way I'll pay more than 47.99 million to acquire RCM Online College. No way. So this becomes the maximum price payable. This becomes the maximum price payable. This becomes the maximum price payable. Now, with that background, ladies and gentlemen, I would want us straight away to go to our past papers. Our past papers. So again, a quick reminder. I would want to see whether they're able to remember what have we just said about our past papers. There is a link to our past papers that I would want to draw your attention to, you guys, that you need to get that link tomorrow at your workplace. I know you have never stolen from your employer, but now here I'm giving you the authority to go and steal from your employer tomorrow. So when you will be in your office tomorrow, ensure that you print all those papers from your office and then you bind them. You call them Advanced Financial Management past papers. Advanced Financial Management past papers. Advanced Financial Management past papers. If you do that, then we shall be safe. We shall be safe. Then we shall be safe. Very good. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I would want us to go straight away to May 2016, question number 4, boy. May 2016, question number 4, boy. May 2016, question number 4, boy, is a classical question showing us how we will value an organization using the DCF method. Using the discounted cash flows method, discounted cash flows method, using the discounted cash flows method. Once, ladies and gentlemen, you get across, you come across that question very fast, tell me that you are ready by writing Y for yes. Yes, yes. So all of us, do we have access to this question? Let me write the question here. 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 It is, Wanjiko has not yet gotten it. Thank you very much, Wanjiko, for being bold. Thank you so much. So can somebody in this case here share that past paper in our 2 WhatsApp groups? In our 2 WhatsApp groups. In our 2 WhatsApp groups. Don't send them the link. They may not be able to know how to use the link immediately. You know, the link has got various ears, various paper settings. They may not be able to interpret now. That they shall interpret tomorrow. So today, please send them the paper itself. Send them the paper itself. You can even send a screenshot of the question. May 2014. No, May 2016. Question number 4, boy. Great. So remember, this is advanced financial management. This is not home science. When you get this kind of a question, ladies and gentlemen, always start by reading the requirement. The required. Oh, let me try to be nice. Let me try to be very nice here today. After all, most of the series that I have here, they haven't paid. If I'm very tough, they may not pay, right? Let me talk nicely. Let me talk nicely. Thank you very much. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, such a question always start by reading the requirement. The requirement will guide you. So like now here, the required, they want us to give them the offer price for a company called Tiny Limited. So it means that these guys want me to do farm valuation. Our subtopic here is farm valuation. Farm valuation. So they want me to give them the offer price for Tiny Limited if Huge Limited were to value Tiny Limited on a forward price earnings multiple of 8 times. So this is method number 2. Method number 2. Method number 2 that you could try to use here is what we call the price earnings ratio technique. Please write it. The price earnings ratio technique. You can write this in full. Price over earnings. Price earnings ratio technique. Method number 2. Now, would you kindly Ladies and gentlemen, remind me the formula of getting PE ratio. Is there somebody who can remind Mwalimu the formula? The formula of getting PE ratio. PE ratio equals who? PE ratio equals who? PE ratio equals, these guys are giving me good things. These guys are giving me good things. I can see what Steve is telling me. I can see what Nancy is telling me. I can see Bill Awairimo. Please remember, in Zoom, you must talk. In Zoom, you must talk. If you want to pass this thing round one, keep on talking. Hata kama unaongea uongo, utapita. Wewe so long as unaongea, hiyo ndio kitu ya maana. So long as unaongea, hiyo ndio kitu ya maana. Yes. So what they're telling me from the words here, PE, they're telling me that this will be price over earnings. Great. So price is market price per share, all over earnings per who? All over earnings per share. This is the formula. If I were you, ladies and gentlemen, I would write this formula and then I ensure that I use a yellow highlighter. I would want to have a yellow highlighter passing on top of these. Is there somebody who has stopped using yellow highlighters? Or rather, is there somebody in this case here who hates color yellow? For those that have ever taught before, ladies and gentlemen, I've always told you what here to use a yellow highlighter. Don't politicize. Yellow, don't politicize. I started using yellow highlighters. Actually, during physical class, I used to buy my students here yellow highlighters because yellow brings it out very well. Don't bring politics here, really. Don't bring politics here, really. No. So whichever then. So after you do this, now come and ask yourself, firm valuation. What do we mean with this firm valuation? You know, firm valuation starts from like an atom, the smallest. To value a firm, I would want to ascertain the market price of a share. The market price of a share. So could you kindly make MPS the subject of the formula? Make MPS the subject. Make MPS the subject of the formula. Why am I making MPS the subject of the formula? It is because I want to get value of one share. The moment I get value of a share, I will have known the value of the company. Like right now, ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you a simple question. I'm sorry for digressing a little bit. What is the current market price per share of Safaricom? What is the current MPS, the current market price of a share of Safaricom? Somebody who looks at TVs, the TV stations that matter. I'm so sure most of us also like, no idea. The biggest company in the South, East Africa. You're not following in this case here, it's a metrics. You guys are not serious. No, I'm joking. Around 40, 50, no. 50 bado. 50, it would have hit 50 if the Ethiopian thing in this case here succeeded right away. But remember, they went to Ethiopia and then we had some turbulence, political turbulence in Ethiopia. Jackie is telling us that it's about 32. It's about 40. So the MPS of Safaricom is about 40 per share, shillings, 40 per share. Now, is there somebody who knows what the total number of ordinary shares of Safaricom are? Number of ordinary shares of Safaricom. How many shares does Safaricom have in total? Don't worry, I'll give you the answer. It's 40 billion. Now, so if somebody wants you today to give them the total value of Safaricom, if somebody wants us to give them the total value of Safaricom, the total market value of Safaricom, the total market value of Safaricom, the total market value of Safaricom. How will you get it using these two parameters? You know the value of one share and you know the number of shares. So basically you'll talk over 40, which is the price per share, times 40 billion. 40 times 40 billion gives me how much in terms of trillion? In terms of trillion? How are they getting 2.6? I don't know. Right? Right. In terms of trillion, it should be about 1.6 trillion, isn't it? 1.6 trillion. And this is a figure that is really scaring everybody. Because even if you were to add, for example, the blue chip companies at the stock exchange, add their total value, all the other blue chip companies, add their total, they can't come to this Safaricom's value, close to Safaricom's value. So people are trying to ask themselves, remember Safaricom really, in terms of assets, it can't be bigger than KCB. It can't be bigger than Watia. It can't be bigger than EABL, right? Unless you're looking at the intangible asset, which is goodwill that Safaricom has, right? So the thing is, which I wanted to sell to you here today, to get total value of a firm, you shall be taking market price per share times the nose. Remember that this is also called market capitalization. Total value, total market value of a firm is also known as market capitalization. So next time, if a customer was to give me a chance of setting an exam, of course they can't give me, I'll give you price of a share, I'll give you number of ordinary shares, and then in the requirement, I'll ask you to compute the market capitalization of the company. The market capital. Market capital is the same as what here? The market value of the firm. And how do we get market value of a firm? You take the market price per share times the number of ordinary shares. Very interesting. Very interesting. So ladies and gentlemen, could you kindly make MPS the subject of the formula here? If you try making MPS the subject of the formula, to get MPS as the subject, it means I cross multiply. And if I cross multiply, I'll end up getting here the PE ratio times EPS. So this is market price per share. Market price per share is PE ratio times EPS. Now listen, this is value of one share. Now what if they want the total market value out of these? What if they want the total market value? To get the total market value, I'll take the PE ratio of the company. I will take the PE ratio of the company times, these earnings per share. But now I want total earnings. So times total earnings times total earnings. This is the formula that I came to sell to you here today. So after you write this formula, I would want you to highlight it in whichever color that you guys are comfortable with. Whichever color that you guys are so comfortable with. Green. I don't know why you've chosen green. Perhaps you don't even have a highlighter. Quite unfortunate. We must have a highlighter because these are the things that I would want when you open your notes. They're those things I would want to really hit your eyes first. When you are just perusing through your notes, the things that I say you highlight, those are really the key things for me. So if you have a highlighter that really comes out conspicuously to you, the better, the better. Myself, political affiliations notwithstanding, ladies and gentlemen, I'll always go for a yellow highlighter, Great. So what are we learning here today? What you're learning today, ladies and gentlemen, is very easy. I should be able to reflect this deeply, the total market value of a firm using the PE ratio method. I'll take the PE ratio of the firm times the total earnings. Now listen, I would want to repeat this again, that if, for example, you were to call me as your consultant in terms of valuing your organization for purposes of mergers and acquisitions, and then you tell me what they would want you to use a quicker way to give us an approximate value of the firm, I'll ask for two parameters. I would want to know what your average PE ratio is. Maybe you could have had other PE ratios over the years, so I'll average it. So I'll take the average PE ratio that your farm has times the total earnings. So I'll ask you for two parameters. I'll ask you for the PE ratio of the farm vis-a-vis who? Vis-a-vis the total earnings. That is so critical for me. I was reading this, and then I decided to do this as the second method. So before I read number 2 and number 3 under the requirement, I would want us to take this opportunity to read the entire question from the beginning. Huge Limited intends to take over Tiny Limited. Huge Limited intends to take over Tiny Limited. Quite bad. Another company in the same industry, Tiny Limited, is expected to post earnings of 86 million next year. Could you kindly underline for me the words earnings of 86 million? Because for farm valuation, that earnings is going to be very important to me. I'm an expert of mergers and acquisitions, and I know the earnings of a farm is an important metric. If Huge Limited acquires Tiny Limited, the expected results of Tiny Limited for the next years will be as follows. They've given us things there. I can see things there. I don't want to read anything from that table for now. From year 4 onwards, it is expected that the annual cash flow from Tiny Limited will increase by 4% each year into perpetuity. I don't want to hear that, right? Actually, even the third paragraph tax is useless for me. I'll go back and read requirement number 1. So requirement number 1, they want me to give them the offer price for this company if Huge Limited were to value Tiny Limited on a forward futuristic price earnings multiple of 8 times. So what do they want me to give them? They want me to give them the offer price. So I'll write here offer price, and then I'll be able to tell them that offer price is the same as market value of a company. And if it is PE ratio that they would want us to use, then I know the formula of getting a market value using the PE ratio method. I know for sure that my market value will be the PE ratio that the examiner has given me times what, ladies and gentlemen, as a quick reminder, what should I put there? So I should take PE. I can see somebody who is trying to look at their notes. I can see somebody who does not want really to make their times total earnings. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Times total earnings. So remember, the total earnings that were given there are futuristic. Forward ever, backward never, forward figures, forward, it doesn't matter really. What we need to know is, in this question, have they given us the PE ratio of Tiny Limited? Doesn't matter which name they use, forward, PE ratio, backward, doesn't matter. Have they given us the PE ratio of Tiny Limited? Yes. How much? How much? How much? How much? PE ratio from Roman number 1. It's 8 times. It's 8 times. Then, ladies and gentlemen, if you get a crazy examiner, like I can tell you myself, those days when I used to be younger, right now I'm no longer young anymore. When I used to be younger, I used to disturb students quite a lot. What I would do, I'll give you the total earnings of the Predator company. I'll give you the total earnings of Huge. I'll also give you the total earnings of Tiny. And then, of course, ask you to get the market value of Tiny. You'll get like a third of the students picking the total earnings of Huge company, right? And then they call me very fast. Most of them like calling me very fast, pick up very fast. Hi, the exam was nice. This time around, Molly, I'm going to pass. Molly, pass, and I'll buy you something. Great. When results come, and then, of course, in this case here, what will they tell you always? That they have been bewitched. There is nothing like being bewitched in this country. I'm changing my batteries. Just give me a moment. One moment. Pick. We should always pick the total earnings of the company we are valuing. Always pick the total earnings of the company that you're valuing. Great. Ladies and gentlemen, if you look at this, required, they wanted us to give them the offer price for Tiny Limited. They want to be acquired. And this Tiny Limited, they want to be acquired. If you look at paragraph number 1, that is where they gave us the earnings of Tiny Limited. Earnings of Tiny Limited. They want to be acquired. Is there somebody who can, I told you even to underline that total earnings figure. The figure, ladies and gentlemen, if I'm not wrong, the figure is 86 million. So if you take 8 times 86 million, what are we getting?